Hey everybody, we're going to do a little bit of a behind the scenes video today. I've had a number of people tell me that they enjoy seeing this behind the scenes stuff. It was more relating to the comments, but I think the behind the scenes stuff is pretty interesting for people in general. And I know for me, especially when I was first starting YouTube, and even now, I love seeing the behind the scenes stuff from various YouTubers and learning how they read their information, their analytics, learning what they glean from it, because there's a lot that you can learn from looking at individual analytics from individual videos and analytics from all your videos put together. But today, what I wanted to look at was specifically my Nintendo video, a video that I put a lot of work into, a lot of time and money went into making that video what it is. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive into the analytics. I'm sorry, but I am not going to be showing you how much these videos make, so my editor is going to be blurring out my estimated revenue amounts for these videos. Maybe one day we can dive into that topic, but for now, what I want to talk about specifically is how well this video did and how the video seemed to have done well in spite of YouTube trying to constantly bury me and my channel. And when I say that, I know there's an accusatory tone with it, but I don't think anybody at YouTube is doing this to me on purpose. I just think that the way the algorithm currently prioritizes my channel, it just doesn't, dude. It does not prioritize my channel. And it's frustrating because I put so much work into everything that I make on this channel now, just for them to go nowhere. Like, let's look back at the video views. Let's look back at the video views to start. My Axiom Verge 2 review, just under 7,000 views. Dyson Sphere program, I paid an editor for that, 4,500 views. I can guarantee I'm in the negative for that one. Nintendo, 185,000. Grim Dawn is one that I didn't expect to do as decently as it did, 50,000 views. And it's frustrating because as well as that one did, and you can see, even though I have, 63,000 subscribers now? 62,600 subscribers. This video, I think it did well, but it still has far less view, not far, but it still has less views than my subscriber count. And if you're a channel that's wanting to grow, you want the view count to be above the amount of subscribers you have. And that has not happened for me in a while. Until this Nintendo video. But look, the Grim Dawn video, 50,000. Cursed Among Us children's content. A lot of this stuff is unlisted now. It's eventually going to find its way back on the main channel, or this channel. Did a couple shorts. Factorio it's just a short, doesn't matter. Slay the Spire Extreme Thirst Edition. I put a lot of work into that video, y'all. I put so much work into that video. The editing that I put into that video, I think, is the most intricate and high energy editing that I have ever done for the channel. It was partially experimental because I wanted to see if the editing itself would, one, help drive the video forward and give it more energy, which I think it succeeded at doing very well. And two, I was hoping that that editing would get people to share the video more. No. Maybe it did, but even if it did, you could tell the views, the video went nowhere. Tried a 1-minute review, that was another short. Among Us clones are hilariously bad. Under 3,000 views. Factorio, but for cats? I think that was an okay video. It was I just kind of pooped it out. 2,500 views. Cyber Shadow review. Another one that I spent quite a lot of time on. 7,000 views. Super Mario Bros. 35. Under 12,000. That video is close to a year old now, and is by far the most effort that I've put into editing a video. I know that I just said that for the Slay the Spire video, but the types of editing that I put in both of those videos are completely different from each other, but both still took a lot of effort. The Slay the Spire video is a lot more like what you would see on a lot of YouTube commentary videos, especially for gaming, and Super Mario 35 video is a lot more Nakey Jakey style. But looking down on all of this stuff, you have to go all the way back to June 2020 before I have another 100,000 view video. And then sandwiched in between two 100,000 view videos is when I talk about Crucible. It's just, YouTube it's hard to keep positive mental health with this stuff, especially when you're trying everything you can to get yourself back into the good graces of the algorithm, and it just doesn't go anywhere. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, is just kind of somewhat proof that YouTube is trying to bury my channel. So here we go. The views. let's first look at the views. The views are at 184,000, 185,000, and you can see just around the time where it starts to blow up. And I'm using blow up in a very limited sense of the word, because if it actually blew up, it'd be like probably past 1 million, but it's like it's a starting point. I appreciate even this amount. Like this is pretty awesome, and I love seeing this. And I want this for every video, man. But 185,000 views, you can see around the time it's actually started to blow up. And if we click on see more, we can really get a much tighter picture of how this looks. I really miss YouTube's old UI for this stuff. It was a lot better. So let's look at the first 28 days. Oh, I'm on the wrong. I just realized this says last 28 days. I want the first 28 days. Okay. Here we go. First 30 days or 31 days. Actually, let's cut this down to July 25th. So let's look at this is like the first 25 or 26 days. This is kind of how a typical YouTube video works for me. And I think maybe for a lot of other people. You get the most views at the very beginning on the first day. And then over the next few days, as the people who really enjoy your channel and have been there for a long time, like watch the video, then the views just go down into like it coasts at a very low number. For most of my videos, this stays low and doesn't really move up, but it's like it comes down, minor bump, and then just mostly dead. That's pretty much how every video that I make ends up going. And to prove it, we can go to my my Dyson Sphere program video. We'll take a look at the first 25 days of that as well. 25 days-ish. Doesn't really matter. But look, you can see initial views goes down, minor bump, and then very little views for like the rest of its life. Up, bump, low. That's pretty much how every video that doesn't have a higher number of views ends up going. But Nintendo, it's really, this one is super interesting, because usually this bump is the YouTube algorithm experimenting with your video and seeing how people might click it and how long they watch and all that stuff. It's usually the experimentation time of, is this worth showing to a wider audience? And based on all the stats that I've seen up to this point, yes it was. And we'll get into that in a little bit. To show you what a video looks like whenever it actually does really good numbers from the algorithm, we'll take a look at my most recent big video, what makes a good Metroidvania. So we'll look at the first 25-ish days of what makes a good Metroidvania. So this is what happens. You can see the difference already. Like the initial day, and then this one did a little better at the beginning than it usually does. And then it goes down, a minor bump, and then it bumps again. Like, this is just the algorithm, like, toying with me. It gives me another minor bump, and then I think at this point I was already pretty happy. Because, like, it had my typical first day views, at the time at least, of about 5,000, and then went up to 10,000 on the second day. And this isn't total, this is per day, which was crazy. And I was like, oh man, this one's taken off. And then it goes down and does nothing. And then I'm like, oh, it's taken off again. And then it goes down, and then, like, looks like it's trying to die here. But if we move into the next month, if we expand this to a total of 2 months, you can see how it like kind of died, and then the algorithm starts playing with it again. And at this point, actually at this point, it's already had a lot of views. And let's go to lifetime, and you can see how it's just constantly playing with it, and then eventually it just like gives it another huge boost, and then kind of lets it coast again, and then another boost, and kind of lets it go again. This video had really good treatment from the algorithm. But you can see, if we go back to the first 28 days, 26 days, I guess, how these two graphs look completely different from two videos that performed pretty well. But this is kind of what it'll look like if it's going to take off. This is kind of what it's going to look like if it's going to die. And at this point, even though it got 10,000 views, in large part, I think due to Lemon releasing his video, at this point, I thought it was pretty much dead. I saw this minor bump, and I really didn't think anything of it at the time, because whenever I think about YouTube, it's just like, in a very cynical way, if it doesn't pop by the first 2 weeks, then in my mind, the video ends up dying. But we can see how after a while it starts doing the numbers. And this is insane to me. At the very beginning, it struggles so hard. It does almost nothing. And then all of a sudden, after over a month, okay, not over a month, but after a full month, it finally starts doing this. That's very unusual. In my experience on YouTube, at least over the past 6 years, it's very unusual for it to take this long to accrue this type of audience, this type of view count. It takes a long time. This is a long time. It usually only takes a couple weeks, like somewhere around here is when it starts to do its rounds. But luckily, this video has seemed to continue doing the numbers, and I'm hoping that it has an overall positive benefit for my channel, but you know, we'll see. But if we go back to the previous 2 videos that I've done, like, it doesn't seem to matter how well this one is done. These next 2 they haven't really gone anywhere, and it's frustrating. But what pisses me off about this Nintendo video especially, in the fact that it did this, the fact that it took so long for YouTube to pick it up and start spreading it around to people is, and this is probably gonna blow your mind. So the reach tab is probably one of your most important tools as a YouTuber. It lets you know how many times your thumbnail has been seen. Your thumbnail and your video title, how many times it had an opportunity to be clicked. So whenever you go to the front page of YouTube and you see all of those thumbnails, those are all impressions for each of those videos. If you go to a video and you see everything on the side, all the recommended videos on the side, those are also impressions. The videos that you see at the end of a video, if you just let it run to completion, that's also an impression. So the way YouTube uses this is by measuring the impressions click-through rate. And what that means is, if somebody is shown your video, do they click on it? To get somebody to click on the video, you need 1, a very compelling thumbnail, and 2, a very compelling title to go with that thumbnail that incites enough curiosity or intrigue to have somebody click on it. There's a whole discussion that we can get into on clickbait, but you should probably just watch Veritasium's video about clickbait. It's very good, although I think the size of his channel gives different data than what the size of like my channel or D-Pad Gamer's channel is. And me and D-Pad Gamer talk about this stuff all the damn time. But look, 5.8 million impressions. That means this thumbnail was presented to people to click on 5.8 million times. And just for a raw average, people clicked on it 2.2% of the time. So if we take the calculator and we plug in these numbers, 5,800,000 roughly estimated, and we'll multiply that by 2.2%, 127,000 views, which doesn't quite match up. So I'm kind of wondering where that's coming from. Could be multiple watches, could just be direct links as well, because I did get a decent amount of views from Twitter, but there you go. That's like, it's rough. But the exact calculation doesn't matter as much as just what this number is in the first place. Now 2.2 is actually a pretty low click-through rate. What you're typically aiming for is about 5 to 10, and that's a pretty solid click-through rate. Like, actually, that's a good click-through rate. Anything over 10 is phenomenal. I'm getting ahead of myself. Click-through rate is one of the big things that YouTube looks at whenever it decides that your video is good enough to recommend to a lot of people. The other thing that YouTube looks at is engagement. How long do people watch? So the average view duration is 12 minutes and 17 seconds, which for the length of this video is kind of low, and it doesn't seem to have changed significantly from getting more attention. And a lot of that kind of has to do with the way that the video was presented and structured. It's not super straightforward, it's kind of meandering, and it could have been a lot more succinct, and I think that would have kept people around for longer. But you know, you live and learn. It would have taken a lot longer to make that video a lot more succinct as well. So you do what you got to do considering the audience you have and the views that you expect to get. And I expected to get nothing on this because that's how YouTube has been treating me for a while. But watch time, average view duration, like, it's not a huge metric to pay attention to because it really depends on like how long the video is. And I think the longer the video is, the lower this tends to be. relative to the length of the video. But what YouTube really cares about is how long the video is watched in total. So longer videos have a bigger chance to have higher watch time, which tells YouTube, hey, this is a good video. People are watching it. People are engaging with it. So if we go back to the reach tab, 2.2% impression click-through rate seems pretty low, but here's something to consider. The click-through rate tends to lower a lot whenever your video starts getting suggested. So if you look at these first 28 days and the way it spikes down after the first 28 days and then maintains this lower click-through rate, it correlates with whenever the views started spiking. If we go to the straight up impressions tab, let's go to see more here. Oh, this is what I wanted. Oh man, this is rough, dude. This is rough. The impressions that the video got the first 28 days is almost nothing compared to the mountains that it creates afterwards. And it looks like even today, it's on average getting about 40,000 impressions a day and spiking close to 80,000 a day, which is really good to see. This kind of makes me happy that it's continuing to do pretty nicely. If we go to the first 25 days, again, this kind of correlates with the views of the first 25 days that we were looking at earlier, where it spikes at the beginning, where most people see it, and then it tapers off and does nothing. But what's important to look at here specifically is how good the impressions click-through rate was for the first few days. So here's the impression click-through rate for the first 25 days of Nintendo, which was actually very good. It kind of dipped down into the 3s, but overall, like, this is a very solid click-through rate. It's not like a phenomenal one, like over 10%, but it's still a very good one. Like that 5 to 10 spot is a really good spot to land. And it started at 7.8 with the initial subscriber push, and went down a little bit, and then just kind of kept fluctuating around mid 4s to high 7s for the first month-ish. And if we compare that, remember, the video that actually did really well in a reasonable amount of time, what makes a good Metroidvania, started off high, you know, with the subscriber base, 7.4%, and then it coasted down to like these low numbers really early on, and yet it still did very well. But it also got like 1.5 million impressions in that time, where this only got 100,000. So it's important to put those numbers into perspective as well. The more impressions you get, the lower the click-through rate is going to be. It's just, there's so much to think about, and a lot of it is like guesswork and trying to apply some amount of social engineering. What's the conclusion that I'm trying to show with this video that I'm making right now that you're watching? It's that YouTube's hard, man. I'm still surprised that this video actually ended up doing well at the end of it all with a graph like this. And you can see how this one just like violently spikes sometimes. It's harder. I wish I could just shrink the days down on this view and just kind of zoom into that. You could do that on the old YouTube UI, but they changed it and made it freaking worse. And there's a lot more data available, sure, but the usability is just through the floor, in my opinion. So I guess I'm not really trying to come to any conclusion here, just kind of sharing what the analytics look like for videos that did well, and just kind of my take on it. Before I leave you, I want to share probably the most frustrating thing of all for this entire situation, like me being in the YouTube doghouse with less than 10,000 views per video on a channel that has 62,000 subscribers. You know, I guess we can look at the Lathe the Spire video for an example. I thought this was a really good video. Impression click-through rate was actually really high. It's 0% here. Look at this. Look at how high this is. Spiking up to 9, but never really dipping below 3, barely dipping below 4, and this video went absolutely nowhere. But here's the freaking crazy thing, dude. The impressions that the video got over its lifetime before I delisted it, it got to 20,000 in the first 2 days, and then over the next 3 months, it got that same amount. And here's the thing, if you remember what I explained what impressions is the video being shown to people through their subscriber feed, through videos on their homepage, through suggested videos on the side. You would assume that if somebody is subscribed to your channel, that they want to see more from your channel. But this straight up shows that YouTube is not even showing the video to a significant portion of my subscriber base. And that's absolutely insane to me. This has 20,000 views, or 20,000 less impressions, not even views. The thumbnail was seen 20,000 less times. 20,000 less times than the amount of subscribers that I had at the time. Is that not insane? Is that not some sort of conspiratorial area where you can be like, yeah, YouTube is definitely trying to sink my channel? And yeah, I know this is kind of a weird video to look at because of its controversial nature. But you know what, let's go back and look at, how about the Celeste bad Steam reviews video? This one's definitely going to have more impressions overall, but it's going to have a very similar kind of situation where like the first 2 days, 25,000, and over the next 3 months, almost 3 months, it's like that same amount. And it's kind of a steady growth, meaning it was accruing views over time, but not a lot. And I know that I was having my editor DJ hide all of the revenue that was being shown. Look, this click-through rate's actually pretty solid as well, and yet it went nowhere. Engagement, average view duration 6 minutes for a 16-minute video, not terrible. I know that I was having my editor hide the revenue for everything, but just to put things in perspective, I got $30 for this 10,000 view video, which is roughly $3 per 1,000 views, which is pretty solid. It's a pretty solid conversion rate, but we don't make a lot from ads. You need a lot of views to make livable wage on YouTube. That's why so many people take sponsors, why so many people take Patreons. There's a lot more to YouTube analytics, but this is like the stuff we see every day. And when your channel is in a position like mine, where it seems like no matter what I do or what I try, it's going to fail more often than not, it can be hard to stay in a positive mindset. It can be hard to continue to be motivated, especially since my overarching goal is to be able to transition into doing this full time so I can make more videos, write more scripts, make more thoughtful content, and continue to do deep dives into topics that I find interesting. But it just feels like fate and YouTube just doesn't want that to happen. So yeah, that's a bit of a downer note. If I'm being honest, I don't think a day goes by when I don't think about quitting YouTube because of the position that I'm in. But I look at you guys that enjoy my videos, and I look at all the people who have seen my videos, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't do it for me. I should do it for them. I should do it for you guys. And while that's wholesome, I guess. But let's be real. Your boy's gotta eat. Your boy's gotta make rent. And unfortunately, the only way to make that happen is to focus on growth. Not just focus on growth for growth's sake, but also like focus on making good videos so people enjoy the videos, so people come back, so you can grow. And as proud of the videos as I am, and as much as I think that they're way better than the videos that I was making in the past, the view counts and the audience doesn't seem to reflect that. And I hope that this melancholic pity party doesn't imply that I don't appreciate the viewers that I have, because at the end of the day, I can put out a video and have thousands of people watch it, which is kind of a real screwed up thing to think about. Like 7,000 people almost watched my Axiom Verge 2 video. It's a lot of people. The YouTube, it's such a toxic thing. Making money on ads is such a toxic thing, because the only way you can actually make decent money on ads is just by playing the numbers. So yeah, these are the things I think about. So if you could do me a favor and check the analytics on that like button below this video, that would be awesome. Let me know how you enjoyed this video. I thought I came in with a plan. Turned out that the plan just kind of threw me out. I threw out the plan. The plan didn't happen. This was kind of meandering. Hope you enjoyed it anyway. See you next time. Bye-bye.